with the business side of things, I found this very hard to separate the business from the professional fun having side of things. I don't know if that's the proper terminology for it, but you go out, you play morning skate, travel games, etc. But then there's also the side of like, even though your agent is negotiating for you, through the agent what exactly is being said about you and to you, and to like separate that business side of, I guess, the amount of beans on the table that maybe they're being a little bit shisty, and to play, like, what was that like trying to separate that?
I was pretty fortunate where I didn't have to sign that many deals, and I wasn't ever really a free agent until the end of my career. I came up in Vancouver and got my first contract, and then the only hairy one was that second contract with Vancouver. I came off my $900,000 a year as a backup, and that's when I started playing well. And they signed me to that second bridge deal. It was about 3 years, but it was tricky because they had Roberto. They didn't want to spend too much money on goaltending, but they wanted to keep me. So I looked around the league and it got down to the wire a bit because they were worried about an offer sheet because I was still restricted on July 1. And we talked about Russia. My agent was kind of like, well, we can always tell them we're going to go to Russia if you don't get what you want. And I was like, oh yeah, just like bluff and see what they do. And he was just like, oh, I don't bluff. I was like, well, I'm not going to Russia, so don't tell them that. And he's like, okay, fair enough. But they were trying to play hardball. They were saying you're worth this, and I was saying I don't know, man. Like, look at my numbers, how bad. Look at this guy. Use comparables, and fortunately, my agent did a good enough job, like keep me out of the nitty gritty where it never got contentious. But it came down to the wire as to when I became a restricted free agent. We signed my 3-year deal there that I ended up getting traded to, and then I had a year left on my deal on that deal when I was in New Jersey. I'd been traded there in the middle of that contract, and Lou signed me to a 7-year extension with a year left on my current deal. So fortunately, I was mostly avoiding of that back and forth, but it definitely does get, you go to arbitration, things are said. And as a player, it is tough when you're chasing your whole career, right? You're chasing, you're chasing, you're chasing. That's what's driving you. And then you get the starting job and you get the big contract. And now it's like, oh, now I'm the hunted. Now guys are coming after me. So it's a different mindset in terms of it, not that it's easier, but when you're younger and you're hungry and you're like, all right, I'm going to go take this and I'm going to get there, and whatever, everything I do is about making it. And then you make it in 3 or 4 years into your established career and your money. And it's kind of like, man, this is hard to do year in, year out. And that's why I think you have some guys who don't quite make that transition to become a full-time starting goalie. That's why there's only so many of those guys in the world, because to be good for 50, 60 games nowadays, used to be 60 or 70, year in and year out, when you're so dependent on everything that happens in front of you, it's a real challenge. So, it was almost harder once you get to that point to maintain that level of play, especially as you're getting older, your body's breaking down a bit. You kind of put a different kind of pressure on yourself, and you just sort of have to adjust and learn how to manage and live with that, and just still be effective while fending off everybody else who's trying to come take your job.
You're welcome for enjoying this clip, and you're welcome to click on more of them right here. There's lots of content available, new podcast every Sunday. Sign up for the Patreon page as well, because that gets you what? Perks. That's it.